Have you ever met someone who just glows? Not in a filtered, perfectly lit, magazine cover kind of way, just alive, bright eyes, a calm face, the kind of smile that actually reaches somewhere. And then you find out their age, and your brain just stops, like a loading wheel that won't spin. Then, the most irritating thought of all, what is this person doing that I'm not? And your mind immediately goes to the most dramatic answers. Cold plunges at 5 a.m. Spending $3,000 on a cream made from rare Himalayan mushrooms blessed by monks. But here's the thing, it's almost never that. The people who age beautifully, genuinely beautifully, not surgically, almost always have the same answer when you ask them. It's not a secret protocol. It's not a supplement stack. It's not even a particularly dramatic lifestyle. It's just small things done consistently. That's it. Small, quiet, almost embarrassingly simple habits. The kind you already know about. The kind most people hear and immediately skip past. Because surely the answer has to be more complicated than that. But I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, watching people, paying attention, and I keep coming back to the same three things. Three habits, not glamorous, not expensive, not requiring a single life overhaul. Just three things, done with some level of consistency. So, stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to realize something slightly uncomfortable. You already knew this. You just needed someone to say it out loud. Habit number one, drink more water. I know, I heard it too. That little internal sigh you just did. The moment someone says, drink more water, something in people just disconnects. Eyes glaze over. The brain files it under, yes, yes, obviously, moving on. It's become the most ignored piece of advice in human history. Right up there with, get some sleep and maybe don't send that email when you're angry. But here's the thing I want you to actually hear. Not the surface version of this advice, the real version. Think about someone you know, maybe it's even you, who gets to mid-afternoon and just crumbles, irritable, foggy, suddenly convinced that everything is harder than it needs to be, that life is vaguely unfair, that the person in the next room is definitely chewing too loudly on purpose. You know the state. When someone chews and you can feel it in your soul. When your patience has evaporated so completely that you're reconsidering basic social agreements. And here's what nobody tells you in that moment. A significant portion of the time, that's not a life problem. That's a hydration problem. Your brain is roughly 75% water. When you're even mildly dehydrated, 2% below optimal, cognitive function starts to drop. Focus blurs, mood dips, reaction to stress gets sharper, more brittle. Small things feel bigger, and most people are walking around in that state all day. Not because life is falling apart, but because they've had 2 coffees, a Diet Coke, and 0 actual water since Tuesday. Meanwhile, their body is back there doing everything it can, running organs, regulating temperature, keeping the whole system functional, just quietly, hoping someone remembers it exists. 1 glass, that's all I ask. 1 glass and I'll keep us going. And what do we give it instead? Stress, caffeine, a scroll through the news, and more stress. Now, let's talk about what this actually has to do with looking younger. Because it's not just about skin, although yes, hydrated skin is literally visibly different. Plumper, smoother, more elastic. Dermatologists are not being poetic when they say water is the most affordable anti-aging product that exists. But it goes deeper than that. Water affects your eyes. That brightness people have, those alive, warm, clear eyes, that's not just good lighting. That's internal hydration. That's a body that isn't in a constant state of managing a deficit. Water affects your energy, and energy is visible. You can see when someone is dragging through their day. You can see when someone is present, awake, genuinely here. That quality, that aliveness, is enormously tied to how you feel. And how you feel is enormously tied to whether your body has what it needs. And there's something else, something more psychological. When you make a small, consistent choice to take care of your body, even something as simple as drinking a glass of water, you're sending yourself a message. I matter enough to do this. That sounds small, but it isn't. Because the people who take care of themselves in small ways tend to take care of themselves in larger ways too. And all of it adds up to an energy, a presence that reads as younger, as more alive, as someone who is on their own side. And look, I'm going to be direct with you right now. Some of you watching this, you're thirsty. Right now, not metaphorically. Go get a glass of water. I'll be here when you get back. The video will wait. Seriously, go. 3-second pause. Narrator waits, looking at camera with quiet patience, a small smile. Good. That's habit number 1. It sounds like nothing. It changes everything. Habit number 2. Laugh more. I want to take a second before you dismiss this one, because this might actually be the most important habit on this list. And it's the one that most adults have quietly, slowly, almost without noticing, stopped doing. There's a study that looked at how often children laugh compared to adults. Children laugh, on average, somewhere between 300 and 400 times a day. Adults, about 15 to 20. 15 to 20 times a day. That's not a statistic. That's a verdict. Think about a time when you laughed so hard that nothing else existed for a moment. The kind of laughter where you forget to breathe, where your stomach hurts, where you look at the person next to you and you can't even explain what was funny anymore. It's just happening. When did that last happen? This week? This month? Can you remember? Because here's what laughter actually does. And I don't mean this in a feel-good motivational poster kind of way. I mean this physiologically. When you laugh, genuinely, not politely, your body releases a cascade of chemicals. Endorphins, dopamine, oxytocin, cortisol drops, blood pressure decreases, muscle tension releases. You can feel it happen. That moment when your shoulders drop, when your face softens, when the tightness you've been carrying for 3 days just loosens. That's not incidental. That's your body resetting. And people who laugh easily, who find genuine moments of joy and silliness in their days, they carry themselves differently. Their faces are softer. Their eyes are warmer. They look, in the most literal sense, younger. Because stress ages people. And laughter is the biological antidote to stress. But here's the thing about adult life. We have gotten so incredibly serious about everything. You know the type. Someone spills their coffee, and the energy in the room changes like a storm front just rolled in. The face closes. The sighing begins. Suddenly, this small moment has become evidence of a pattern, a problem, possibly a character flaw in the universe itself, versus the person who spills their coffee and goes, well, today has a theme, Apparently, same event, completely different internal experience, completely different impact on the body, on the face, on how that person moves through the rest of their day. Now, I want to be careful here because I'm not saying toxic positivity. I'm not saying pretend hard things aren't hard. Hard things are hard. Life is genuinely difficult sometimes, but there is a space between suffering needlessly over small things and pretending nothing is wrong, where lightness lives, where humor lives, where you can hold something difficult and still find a moment to laugh at something ridiculous. And most of us have drifted too far from that space. Jung wrote about this. He talked about how people who can genuinely access levity and humor tend to be psychologically more resilient, not because they're avoiding reality, but because they have a wider emotional range. They can move through states instead of getting stuck in one. The chaotic friend, you know the one who texts you at the worst possible moment with the most absurdly funny thing, and suddenly you're laughing when you were absolutely convinced laughing was off the table today. That friend is performing a service, a medical service, arguably. Call them more, text them back, let them be chaotic. Watch the thing that makes you genuinely laugh. Not background content, not scrolling, something that actually gets you. Be willing to be silly, to make the joke, to send the meme, to be playful with the people you love. And actually, I'm curious. Drop it in the comments. What's one thing, a show, a video, a friend, anything that always makes you laugh? The thing you come back to when you need it. I genuinely want to know. And I suspect other people watching this could use the recommendation. Habit number 2. Laugh more. Your face will thank you. Your nervous system will thank you. And honestly, so will everyone around you. Habit number 3. Sleep well. Okay, now we're in uncomfortable territory. Because this is the habit that everyone knows they should prioritize. And almost nobody actually does. People love the idea of sleep, love talking about how tired they are, love the concept of a good night's rest. And then midnight comes around, and suddenly there are conspiracy videos to watch, snacks to eat, one more episode, one more scroll, one more thing. And then 1 a.m., 2 a.m., the phone goes down, sleep happens, the alarm comes, and somehow, we wake up genuinely surprised that we feel terrible. I want you to think about the last time you slept really, genuinely well, went to bed at a reasonable time, woke up naturally. Do you remember what that felt like? That specific quality of being actually rested? Your brain was clearer. Your patience was longer. Small things felt small instead of catastrophic. Your face looked different, softer, less gray, more present. That's not a coincidence. That's biology. During sleep, your body runs a series of processes that simply cannot happen any other way. Human growth hormone is released, directly involved in tissue repair, skin regeneration, cellular maintenance. The glymphatic system, essentially the brain's cleanup crew, flushes out metabolic waste products. Inflammation markers decrease. Emotional memories are processed and integrated. Sleep is not rest in a passive sense. Sleep is work, the most important work your body does. And when you skip it or shortchange it, all of that work doesn't happen. The waste products accumulate. The skin doesn't repair itself. The inflammation climbs. The emotional regulation frays. And you can see it on someone's face, in their eyes, in the way they carry themselves. Dark circles are the least of it. Brain fog, irritability, a kind of grayness, an absence of spark. There's a thing that happens with sleep deprivation that doesn't get talked about enough. It makes everything feel harder than it is. You forget one password, and suddenly you're questioning whether technology was a mistake, whether your life is organized correctly, whether some fundamental assumption you've been making has been wrong this whole time. That is not a philosophical crisis. That is what happens when the prefrontal cortex is operating on 4 hours of sleep. Your brain, when underslept, loses its ability to put things in proportion. Small problems become enormous. Minor inconveniences become evidence of patterns. You start making decisions about relationships, about work, about yourself, from a place of artificial negativity. Some people aren't difficult. They aren't pessimistic. They aren't cynical or mean or broken. They're just exhausted. And they've been exhausted for so long that they've started to mistake it for their personality. Jung had a perspective on sleep that I find genuinely interesting. He saw the unconscious as most active during sleep, as the place where deep psychological integration happens, where the experiences of the day get sorted and processed and understood at a level the conscious mind can't access while it's busy being conscious. Sleep, in this view, isn't just physical maintenance. It's psychological and emotional maintenance. It's how you make meaning out of your experiences, how you process what happened, how you prepare for what comes next. You are not a machine. You cannot optimize your way out of needing rest. Rest is not a reward for when everything is finished, because everything is never finished. Rest is part of the work. Can we just, for a moment, normalize this? The idea that resting is not laziness, that protecting your sleep is not indulgence, that going to bed before midnight is not some kind of defeat. Some people feel genuinely guilty when they rest, like they're stealing time from productivity, like the exhaustion is a badge of effort that should be worn proudly. It isn't. It's just exhaustion, and exhaustion is aging you faster than your age is. Your phone gets charged every night, not because it's weak, because it has a finite battery and it needs to be replenished to function. You are infinitely more complex than your phone. What's your excuse? Protect your sleep. Protect your peace. Protect the hours that make the rest of your hours possible. That's habit number 3. So here we are. Drink more water, laugh more, sleep well. 3 things. 3 embarrassingly simple things. And I know what part of your brain is doing right now. It's looking at that list and going, that can't be it. There has to be more. This is too obvious. But that's exactly the trap. We've been sold this idea, very successfully sold this idea, that taking care of yourself has to be complicated, has to be expensive, has to involve suffering or sacrifice, or some kind of dramatic reinvention. And so the simple things get dismissed. Water, laughter, sleep, gone, skipped, filed under too obvious to bother with. And meanwhile, the person glowing, they're just quietly doing the simple things. Not perfectly, not with some rigid protocol, just doing them consistently, over time. That's the real secret, if there is one. Not the what. The what is straightforward. It's the why bother. And I think the reason most people don't bother is because these habits, taken individually on any given day, don't feel like they're doing anything. You drink a glass of water today, and your face doesn't transform. You laugh at something ridiculous, and you don't look 5 years younger by morning. You sleep 8 hours, and it takes weeks before you really notice the difference. There's no dramatic feedback loop, no before and after photo. It's just slow, quiet, cumulative. But that's how the best things work. Here's what I actually believe is underneath all three of these habits. All three of them are acts of self-respect. Drinking water says, my body deserves what it needs. Laughing says, my joy is worth protecting. Sleeping says, my rest is as important as my effort. And when you treat yourself that way, consistently, in small ways, every day, something shifts in how you carry yourself, in how you show up. People feel that. They respond to it. They read it, often without knowing what they're reading, as vitality, as youth, as someone who is genuinely, presently, actually alive. And that's available to you right now, today, not next year, not after the diet, not when things calm down, today. So, I want to ask you something real before I let you go. Which of these three habits is the one you're most consistently neglecting? Not which one sounds hardest. Which one do you already know, in some quiet part of you, that you've been ignoring? Think about it for a second. And if you want, tell me in the comments, genuinely, which habit and why. Because I think there's something clarifying about saying it out loud, making it real in some small way. And I read the comments, so I'll actually see it. Water, laughter, sleep. That's it. Staying young isn't always about fighting age. That framing, fighting, resisting, battling, it's exhausting just to think about. And it doesn't really work. Not in the long run. What actually works is something gentler and more powerful. Supporting your body, protecting your joy, treating yourself like someone worth caring for. Not occasionally, not when you have time, not when you've earned it. Just regularly, quietly, with some consistency and some grace. The people who glow, I've thought about this a lot, they're not fighting time. They're not desperately holding something back. They're just present in their bodies, in their days, in their lives. And that presence is what we read as youth, as beauty, as aliveness. You don't have to overhaul anything today. You don't have to become a different person or start a new program or commit to some perfect routine. Just pick one thing from today. 1. Have an extra glass of water before you sleep tonight. Text the friend who makes you laugh. Put your phone down 20 minutes earlier than you normally would. That's enough. That counts. That's where it starts. I made a video about the morning habits that change how your entire day feels. Not a 5 a.m. routine, not an hour-long protocol, just the first 30 minutes. Done differently. It connects to everything we talked about today in a way I think you'll find genuinely useful. If this video gave you something, if one idea landed, if something shifted even slightly, leave a like. It genuinely helps more people find it. And that's the only reason I mention it. Take care of yourself today. Not because you have to, not because someone's watching, just because you can, and because you're worth it. I'll see you in the next one.